Hi everyone, I am here just to show you the massive collection of books that I bought over the past couple of months. I did sit down to film maybe a month ago to show you the first half of the books that I bought, but I just wasn't happy with any of the videos that I was making, so I just thought I would compile everything into one long video and we'll see how it goes. Um, so um, here's a warning, it's mostly medieval. If you don't like medieval history, then this is probably not going to be the book haul for you, but there's a few different eras. It is mainly nonfiction with two works of fiction. Um, just warning you now if that's not your thing. But anyways, I'll make a start with the fiction that I bought first. So when I was browsing through the Barnes & Noble clearance section, I came across two books by Guillermo del Toro, one of which is Pan's Labyrinth. So this was adapted from the film into a book rather than vice versa. And I was really happy to pick this up because Pan's Labyrinth is one of my favorite films. I absolutely love magical realism, and I really enjoy Guillermo del Toro's films. I really like The Devil's Backbone. So I'm really interested to see how how Pan's Labyrinth is as a book. And then the second one that I bought is by Guillermo del Toro and Chuck Hogan, called The Night Eternal. So if I'm correct, this is, okay, yeah, so nuclear winter has settled upon the earth and there are only 2 hours of sunlight a day. It is a near perfect environment for vampires. I love everything vampires, so I am looking forward to reading this as well. So these are my two works of fiction that I bought, and I will be reading these in the very near future. Right, so that's the works of fiction. So what I'll do now, I'll show you the non-medieval books first because these comprise a smaller section, and then we'll get into the medieval books. So the first one that I'll show you, I bought this online secondhand. This is The American West by Dee Brown. Last year, I finished Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. Such a good book. I really like Dee Brown's style of writing, so I thought I would give this a go, especially after talking to Ben Ben, the history fella. I think this is actually a recommendation he made about this book. So looking forward to that. And then the second one I picked up in a secondhand bookshop in Llandudno in Wales. My husband and I recently went on holiday there, vacation, and just had fun browsing through the shops, trying to escape the heat. We were having a heat wave at the time. So this is probably the third book I have by Peter Ackroyd. And this is called Dominion, The History of England, Volume 5. I know, obviously, there are volumes 1 through 4, which I don't have, but this is the only one that I could find in the shop. And I don't normally read about this particular era, so this is during the reign of Queen Victoria. Although I am familiar with it, it's not something that I generally tend to gravitate towards, but I thought, the cover's really beautiful. It was only £5, and I need to branch out. So I'll give this one a go probably next year, but until then it'll look nice and pretty on my shelf. Okay, so that's the fiction and the non-medieval nonfiction, so we'll go ahead and make a start on the rest of it, which if you don't watch my channel, I read a lot about the medieval era, especially England during the age of the Plantagenets. However, I do tend to read a bit about France and the rest of Europe as well. So the bulk of what I did buy is related to the medieval era. So the first one that I'll show you, this was actually a purchase based off of a recommendation by Shannon Bontrager on one of his, I think it might have been a history tag challenge that he did last year. But this is Montague by Emmanuel Leroy Laudery. And this is about the Cathars, so the Albigensian Crusade. So I recently finished a book by Stephen O'Shea called The Perfect Heresy, which also focused on the Albigensian Crusade. I absolutely love that book. I'm fascinated by how, you know, the Cathar heresy and the Inquisition panned out. So I'm looking forward to reading this as well. And I haven't even mentioned the publisher, sorry. Who published this? This is by Scholar Press. So looking forward to that. Another one that I picked up, I mentioned this in a recent tag video. I was excited to read this book. It's a new release, new-ish. This is called The White Ship by Charles Spencer, as in the brother of Princess Diana. I noticed that he wrote a couple of other books. I haven't purchased any of them, but I'm interested to see what he has to say. So this book starts, I presume, with Henry I's son, William, dying in a shipwreck, which meant that Henry's hopes of passing on the, the heirdom. Sorry, I can't, my grasp of English. Dies with his son. So he has to appoint, after trying to have another son with his new wife, all hopes of that failed. So he basically has to appoint his daughter as heir to the English throne, which didn't please a lot of people. And then, of course, Stephen of Blois came in and usurped the throne anyways, which led to a very long civil war. So looking forward to what Charles Spencer has to say about this event in history. And then what else did I pick up? So this one, I don't know how I haven't picked this up before now, although to be fair, I didn't really buy a lot of physical books prior to last year. I moved a lot when since being in England, probably 7 times in the last 10 years, so I'm just building a collection now. But anyways, any medieval enthusiast has probably owned a copy of this book. It's Barbara Tuchman's A Distant Mirror, The Calamitous 14th Century. I saw this in Waterstones here, actually. It was a bit out of my price range, so I found a copy online, the same copy, so I am really excited because I do think that this is quite beautiful. So in England, this is the time when the Black Prince defeats the French at the Battle of Poitiers. It's the age of the Black Death. It's when Edward III declares himself the heir of the French throne. It starts the 100 Years' War. There's the Peasants' Revolt. There's the Jacquerie in France. A lot happens in the 14th century. It's when, medieval Europe is at it's pretty much the High Middle Ages. So I am really looking forward to reading this book because, as I say before, I haven't read it yet, and it's pretty much a staple in any medieval enthusiast diet. Book up Moorish Spain by Richard Fletcher. Found this online. This is published by Phoenix Books, a Phoenix paperback, in 1992. So after the Moors conquered Spain, conquering the Visigothic kingdom there, how it reintroduced a lot of classical ideas and concepts back into Europe through the conquest. And I suppose it will take us right up to the Reconquista, but we shall see. So really looking forward to reading this book. And then next in this little pile that I've got here, so this is the Struggle for Mastery, The Penguin History of Britain Between 1066 and 1284 by David Carpenter. So again, I really like the Plantagenet kings and queens of England. I like to read about them a lot. So this will take us from the conquest up until, is it when Henry the Third, the First Barons' War, Edward the First, yeah. So again, I read a lot about the Plantagenet kings and queens, so I'm just interested to see what David Carpenter has to say because I haven't read anything by him before. And then I do have another pile over here. Sorry if the phone shakes. It's balancing rather precariously at the end of a book stack being propped up. Let me just pull these over here. Anyways, so the first book in this pile here, so I just showed this in the my weekly reads video. This is called Vanished Kingdoms by Norman Davis. This is a Penguins book. This is by Penguins Books. So these are about kingdoms that don't really live in current memory. So Visigothic kingdoms such as Tolosa in southern France and Aragon, the various different counties and duchies and kingdoms of Burgundy, which is a confusing concept. There's Strathclyde, and some of the kingdoms that he discusses are very recent as well. So I'm looking forward to this book. As I mentioned, I already started it and I'm enjoying it. So what else have I got? So I picked up this book by Roger Crowley, somebody correct me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, called City of Fortune, How Venice Won and Lost a Naval Empire. This is by Faber and Faber. I read a lot about English medieval history. I don't read that much about the rest of Europe. My interests are admittedly quite narrow, so I'm pretty ignorant apart from what I read and the relationships that England had with other countries. So I'm trying to correct that by reading more broadly. I did see another book by him. It's The Siege of Constantinople, and I really want to pick that one up. But maybe I'll give this one a go first before I buy any more books. As you can see, I'm not really needing anything new for a while. And then I picked up Brief History of the 100 Years' War by Desmond Seward. Again, apologies if I'm pronouncing that wrong. This is by Robinson, London. And then there's a note in there. It just says 2nd of January 2015, Wood Green, which is an area of London. So I actually downloaded a sample of a book that he wrote called Demon's Brood, which is just a history of the Angevins, so Geoffrey Plantagenet's ancestors. And I found it half entertaining and half problematic. So that was before I picked up this book. So I and going into this with my interest peaked just because I'm wondering if he is going to say some inflammatory things in here as well, or not necessarily inflammatory, but somewhat problematic. We'll see. So yeah, looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to all of them. Why else would I buy the books otherwise? And then this one, I was not expecting this book to be so physically large. This is Ian Mortimer's 1450, Henry V's Year of Glory. There isn't a book that I've read by Ian Mortimer that I don't like. I really enjoyed The Fears of Henry IV. I really enjoyed The Greatest Traitor about Roger Mortimer. I thought that was a really good book, purely because there isn't really any biographies about Roger Mortimer himself, which is very strange considering that he basically ruled England for 3 years. So it's quite fascinating that no one else has decided to write a full biography on him. But anyways, back to this. So because I have read other books by in Mortimer and really enjoyed them, I thought I would give this one a go as well. I'm assuming that it's not just about 1415, otherwise he'd have a lot to say about the Battle of Agincourt. I'm sure it's a biography about Henry V, but we shall see. So anyways, that was a very long video about the books that I've acquired over the past couple of months. And in fact, these don't, these are just the physical books that I bought. There's nothing about the Kindle books that I bought. Probably won't show you those. But anyways, I don't tend to have a plan when it comes to reading. I don't do TBRs. I just pick up what I feel like reading at the time. So as you can see, I've got plenty of choice. Hopefully over the next couple of weeks, I'll do a day, a more in-depth review of some of these books, because I've got plenty to choose from for, the history challenge coming up this month. But anyways, I hope maybe that you enjoyed some of these books. If you have any questions or comments, obviously you know where to leave them. But anyways, have a great day, BookTube, and I shall see you next time. Bye.